For 4,500 years, the Great Pyramid of Giza has dared us to explain it. It stands nearly 500 feet tall, built from over 2 million stone blocks. Some of those blocks weigh more than 15 tons. How did a Bronze Age society, with no iron, no wheels, and no complex pulleys, hoist this mountain of stone into the sky? Where facts were missing, we filled the gaps with myth. We invented stories of giants, lost high-tech civilizations, and ancient astronauts. But the truth is actually far more impressive. Today, using AI reconstructions, satellite imaging, and ancient soil chemistry, we can finally watch the pyramids rise in real time. But technology only gets us so far. To really understand how this happened, we have to look through the eyes of the people who actually swung the hammers. We need to go back 45 centuries to the Giza Plateau and stand beside a young man who left his home to build a mountain for his king. My name is Nacht. My home is a small village in the delta where the soil is rich, black, and wet. When the Nile flooded our fields this year, just like it does every summer, the elders called my name. Pharaoh Khufu needed men. We weren't being sent to war. This was a sacred duty, to build a home for the living God, a staircase to help him reach the stars. As our barge drifted closer, the horizon itself changed. I'd heard rumors of this stone mountain, but nothing prepares you for the actual sight of it. It sat on the high desert plateau like a brilliant white peak rising straight out of the dust. The air was thick. It smelled of roasting meat, wood smoke, and the chalky dust of a million split stones. I felt incredibly small, terrified even. But the river kept moving, and so did we. For generations, a simple question stumped archaeologists. How did the Egyptians move millions of tons of stone to a high plateau that sits miles from the modern Nile? The breakthrough came from an unexpected place: ancient pollen and AI satellite mapping. In 2022, researchers analyzed fossilized pollen trapped deep in the Giza soil. The data proved that a long-lost branch of the Nile, which we now call the Khufu branch, once flowed right past the construction site. During Khufu's reign, this channel was deep and wide. When the summer floods arrived, the Egyptians used the high water to float massive wooden barges directly to the edge of the plateau. They didn't drag these multi-ton blocks across miles of scorching sand. They let the river do the heavy lifting. They sent me to the quarries of Tura across the river. The limestone there is pure white and fine-grained, saved only for the outer casing of the pharaoh's tomb. My hands, which only knew the soft mud of the fields and the wood of a plow, suddenly had to hold a heavy copper chisel and a wooden mallet. The sun in those quarries doesn't just shine, it beats down on you like a physical weight. White dust gets into your throat, turning your spit to paste. Every single strike of the mallet sends a shockwave up your arms, through your shoulders, and straight down your spine. Copper is a soft metal, so our chisels dull constantly. Every few minutes, a young boy runs by to take our blunt tools and hand us fresh ones, still warm from the forge. But you don't fight the stone. You have to listen to it. We carve deep channels around a block, then drive dry wooden wedges into the cracks. Then we pour water over them. As the wood drinks, it swells, expanding with a quiet force that makes the bedrock groan. Then, with a crack like thunder, the block snaps free. It's a victory of patience, not raw muscle. The tools themselves were simple, but the chemistry was sophisticated. When scientists analyzed copper chisels recovered from Giza, they found they weren't pure copper. They were alloyed with arsenic, which made the metal significantly harder and more durable. These quarrymen didn't work at random. They mapped the natural fractures in the limestone beds to save energy. By reading the grain of the rock, they could split massive blocks with surgical precision using nothing but wood, water, and abrasive sand. For the incredibly hard red granite of Aswan, used deep inside the king's chamber, copper tools were useless. The metal would simply bend. Instead, workers used heavy balls of dolerite, a stone harder than granite, to literally pound the rock away. It was mind-numbing, brutal work. It took hours of pounding just to chip off a few inches. But the pharaoh had two things in absolute abundance: time and human labor. "50 of us share a single rope. It's a thick, coarse braid of twisted papyrus that bites deep into the skin of our shoulders. Right in front of our wooden sled stands the water pourer. He is the one who controls our pace and our pain. Pour too little water, and the sled digs into the dry sand like an anchor, snapping muscles. Pour too much, and the ground turns to thick, trapping mud. But get it just right, and the heavy sled glides over the sand almost like ice. We pull to the rhythm of his chants. Heave! Heave! For the king! For the sky! Our feet sink deep into the hot earth with every step, but the stone slides forward. It has to. How do you move these massive blocks up a rising pyramid without cranes? This was the core of the mystery for decades. In 2014, physicists in Amsterdam figured out a key piece of the puzzle. They realized that wetting the sand in front of a sled cuts the required pulling force in half. The water acts as a binding agent, linking the sand grains together and making the ground firm, which keeps the sand from piling up in front of the wooden runners. But what about the ramp? A single, straight ramp leading to the summit would have required as much stone and earth as the pyramid itself. The most practical model suggests a hybrid system: a steep, straight ramp at the base to transport the heaviest foundation stones, which then transitions into a spiral ramp wrapping around the exterior of the pyramid as it ascends. Some researchers, pointing to microgravimetry scans, believe there was actually an internal ramp, a spiral tunnel built right inside the pyramid's core. This would allow workers to drag the final stones up through the heart of the structure. A hybrid approach like this explains how they reached the absolute summit without a massive external ramp collapsing under its own weight. When the sun finally dips below the horizon, the work stops. The overseer blows a horn, we drop our ropes, and we walk down the dusty paths back to our city. Back home, people thought we'd be treated like animals, beaten and starved in the desert. But that's not the reality here. We're fed like champions. Every night we get fresh bread, salted Nile fish, and thick barley beer that warms you from the inside out. On good days, we even get beef from the pharaoh's private herds. We sleep in dry, safe barracks, protected from the biting desert cold. If you get hurt, the doctors actually take care of you. Just yesterday, a boy from the western villages had his leg crushed when a block shifted. The physicians set the bone with wooden splints and wrapped it in clean linen. They didn't discard him, they healed him. We aren't slaves, we are the builders of Egypt. For centuries, the popular image of Giza, mostly cooked up by the Greek historian Herodotus, was one of hundreds of thousands of miserable slaves whipped into submission. But modern archaeology has completely shattered that myth. In the late 20th century, archaeologists uncovered Hayt el Ghurab, the lost city of the pyramids sitting just south of the plateau. This wasn't a temporary camp. It was a highly organized, state-run city that housed up to 20,000 people. Excavations revealed massive industrial bakeries churning out thousands of loaves of bread every day. They also found millions of animal bones, showing that these workers regularly ate prime cuts of beef and mutton, food usually reserved for the upper classes. The most telling evidence comes from the workers' graves. When anthropologists examined the skeletal remains in the nearby cemetery, they found that many lived long lives. Even those who suffered horrific injuries, like broken limbs or severe head trauma, received advanced medical treatment. Their bones show clean, successful settings and healing. These weren't disposable slaves. They were highly valued, skilled laborers. Sometimes, the work moves inside the mountain itself. I was picked to help carry the dark stones for the chamber where the pharaoh will sleep forever. These stones aren't like the soft white limestone of Tura. They're red and black granite, hard as iron, hauled all the way from Aswan in the far south. Standing under those massive ceiling beams, you can feel the weight of the entire mountain pressing down on you. The air inside is hot, stagnant, and thick with the smell of sesame oil lamps and sweat. We work in near total darkness, our voices bouncing off the polished granite like ghosts. The priests say these blocks are so heavy they would collapse the rooms below if they weren't placed with perfect magic. I don't understand the magic of numbers, but I trust the scribes. They measure every coordinate with red cords and plumb lines. If they're off by even the width of a finger, the mountain collapses on top of us. The engineering of the King's Chamber is the ultimate triumph of the Giza builders. Positioned deep inside the core, this room has to withstand millions of tons of downward pressure. To keep the flat ceiling from collapsing, the ancient architects designed an incredibly clever stress-relieving system. Directly above the chamber, they stacked 5 separate attic-like spaces, separated by massive granite beams weighing up to 50 tons apiece. At the very top of these layers, They built a gabled roof using giant angled limestone blocks. This shape acts like a shield, diverting the immense weight of the pyramid away from the chamber and channeling it outward into the core of the monument. Years have gone by. My hair is gray now, my hands are as rough as sandstone, and my back is permanently bent. But today, none of the pain matters. Today, we place the benben, the capstone.